Hey, good morning. Yeah, Disney up here today. If you didn't realize this, stock market is a ruthless, greedy place where they will walk over your gasping body for a dollar. I mean, they're talking about laying off another 7,000 people. I mean, so many companies are laying off, and the markets just want that because more confirmation of bad news so that the Fed will back off from raising interest rates much more. And of course, the most greedy ones want them to start easing, which they say they won't do this year. But anyway, here's Disney up here cutting another 7,000 jobs, and they said they're making money. And the stock is gapping up in the area of that pivot high. Like, see if this one holds up like Meta did after going higher. The market's kind of yawning at that. Or are we getting what we refer to sometimes a Christmas tree effect type of a pattern? And things just flip back and forth with overlapping bars as the, green, red, green. And it's just in a trading range. So things have been relatively, quiet in a sense, not moving too much. Well, this is not a pivot. I'm going to drag my green little bar up here. A wild price action within this range. And putting things in perspective here, this is up and down, and it's getting a little tighter. Some people might draw lines to connect the dots over the top and at the bottom, and their lines start to come together into an apex. And maybe it's going to break one way or the other. So we wait. Sentiment is still up here. Breadth is working its way lower toward a bullish level, but sentiment's up here, so it doesn't tell us too much as far as internals supporting here. But option traders are still betting this is going to go up, and maybe it will. But as we talked about since the end of last week, two things. I talked about the very shallow retracement being very close to this high. Now, it depends on how long this goes sideways here. And it still could be a breakout failure. And I say that because the sentiment where it's at. Whereas if the sentiment would pull back here and this pulled back, then it could be a scenario where it does go higher and maybe up, toward that pivot high up there. But, typically after several weeks up and it's at resistance, it pulls back, but it ain't pulling back. So far, bullish price action. So if it can go sideways, maybe a little more, and I guess it breaks, well, then, getting through this 4,200 on the S&Ps becomes a little bit more, higher probability just by consolidating here a little bit versus just coming down here and flipping back up. So, it's one of these situations that, looking at a pattern like this, unless you want to play the support and resistance intraday, you don't do anything with it because there's no compelling pattern here. Not yet at all. Spiders gapping up to the top of yesterday's bar. So an initial positive start to the day, but no big deal. It's gapping up in a trading range where maybe if it goes a little higher, sellers are going to be there. What we would look for with anything that gaps up, bullishly to the top, near the top of a range, is for it to go sideways there for a little while. A half hour or so, chopping around. It tries to go down. You look, what we talked about yesterday in MT Live. You apply your bar by bar analysis, and where maybe as it's going sideways here, Well, something like this, right? I don't know. That was 8 o'clock, wasn't the news, but something like this where I mean it whips back and forth or it just whips down and it comes right back up again and then starts going sideways. That would be a pattern supportive of a bias that, hey, this thing's going to break out. You see buyers on the dip and then it gets a little tight. Let me see if it goes, and you keep an eye on your internals, measuring the day like this, and say, hey, where are the ticks spending the majority of their time? Are they spending the majority of their time above zero? If it went down and flipped lower, how power was it? Did it not even hit minus 1,000? And as it flipped back up, is the VIX declining? Is the AD line like today? It'll open up. We'll see how bullish it is. But then does it get up? If it stays up there, does it get above 1,000, 1,200, 1,500? So these internal market gauges help us measure the day. So while we look at the price patterns, right, they can be similar one day to another day, but the internals will be different to help us with a bias as to, hey, this gap up, while isn't so impressive on the daily chart, this is gapping up here. The internals at that time are supportive of going higher. On there, I think I have it on a 5-minute chart intraday. Yeah, you see here it says 5-minute chart. 5-minute chart. And the ticks here, like on my other platform, the desktop, I have it on a 5-minute chart and maybe on something else on a 2-minute chart just to see a little more detail. But the thing is, you want to see where it's spending the majority of its time. And you see there's no candlesticks here. I'm not looking to read any patterns. This flipping back and forth like this between plus and minus 600, that's just kind of a whippy day. It's indecisive. Yet today is McGraw Day at 12 o'clock, everybody. See, Ty is asking. And McGraw's in here. He can confirm that nothing else came up. And we'll go live on YouTube and Facebook and all of that. Talking about SPX credit spreads and all that good stuff that goes along with it. Yeah, I'll record it. Won't be a multimedia. Yeah, information is good. I have to learn. All right, let me go through this. So initially, I said when I see as what's going on here, my initial thought was I'm not interested in anything. This is gapping up here, so this isn't too far away. But you want to be above the whole number of 4,200, and ideally, you got to get. I think there was juice below 4,000, which seems, I think, the better odds. All right, so 4085. It's not that far away. Both of them are not that far away. It's really not one of those situations where things are going sideways where, like the other last couple of days was like, I think these are no brainers, and they were. Whereas these, that could tag above here or down here, if things could spark it. So I don't think this isn't a no-brainer day. Right. Yeah, exactly, Jake. This, it's, but 80, 85, it's gapping up here. It's not a big stretch to think it could go down there if it started to sell off. So, you got to know what you're doing today. You always need to know what you're doing, but have your plan if you want to cut it one way or another, but it's not a no-brainer day, I'll tell you that. So, same story here, flip-flopping back and forth, back and forth. The Dow, Disney up here a little bit. It's not clearing resistance. I think, I wrote in the weekend letter, we covered the Dow just for educational purposes, the chart and concepts. And I was like, this is making no, this is just a pattern that you should print it out or put it in your thumbnails, or, if you have your trading journal thing, is like, this is one just stay away from, because it's so indecisive with tails and overlapping bars. There's no link to the presentation, Jim. We'll just go live in this room. I will, we don't have to move like we do it, at MT Live. I will just, you're just being here. I'll make McGraw a presenter, and he'll show his screen or speak, or he'll bring up charts, whatever he wants to do. If he tells me he wants me to bring up charts, or he's going to show something, he'll be able to show it. Right. This is a more constructive pattern, pulling back to this minor support. It's still making lower high bars. We'll see where this ends. You can see this is just whipping back and forth like everything else. It's at a whole number. It's at resistance. Just the combination of time frames and patterns here is a good example of, go find some other stock that's on its own page, or, we say SOH, sit on your hands and wait for things to materialize that present itself in a pattern that we say this is a decisive pattern that would support some kind of meaningful move, and we don't have any of that, no matter where we look. Right? Not in the markets anyway. Now this is down, right? So that's constructive, but only in the moment of today. So we talked about these interest rates and the dollar. And so, this made that little breakdown failure and flipped up. It's at a resistance area. So it's going to do its wiggles here. Today being down as it is isn't very meaningful. It'll be supportive to the market because that's what the market wants to see. And this might pull in here a little bit more, give or take. But as we get into tomorrow and next week, if this is chopping around here, this will be one of the things that, if it starts to flip up, it's going to support a bias that the markets are going to go lower. And we don't look at the VIX day to day, but this is down at a point where, last year, it flipped up from this area. And so far, it's just hanging around. So no helpful information there. A conclusion just keeps coming to, the markets aren't going to move a whole heck of a lot here. And, the dollar's down a little bit, interest rates down a little bit, markets up a little bit. So no edge, so to speak. Transports are still strong. Stay out of the chop. Don't be a commission generator. That's like, oh, I see that pattern. You press the button there, press the button there. You're going back the other direction, back and forth, or little stops, paper cuts that add up to a little bit of a gash at the end of the day. Bitcoin rolling over a little bit. So, yeah, that's it. SOH, be very selective as always, and adhere to your stops, and we'll get past this choppy point in the markets. All yours again.
Good morning. So yeah, IWM, I don't know, I'm a little, I set an alarm there. Diamonds gapping up over yesterday's high. That's today, Thursday, over Tuesday's high. That's a 1, 2, 3 breakout. I don't mind doing a put spread on that. I just posted here. There's a number of these buy setups, and the extent of the reach, and they came in steep, many of them with an ugly Bear Island gap like this. So these are not ideal patterns for directionals, except just for a bounce. But over yesterday's high, Amazon, I like as a 1 DTE put spread. DD, I just posted 123, gapping up here to yesterday's high. Ideally, if it doesn't trigger for 30 minutes, gives us some more time to digest the market. Strength in the morning. We did one earnings trade yesterday, a firm. And here's another example. Bearish gap, but it's buy setup. We shorted way out of the money, $12.50 or $12, 12, 10.5 put spread, gapping against us, but we're still $1.60 out of the money. So I think we should have an open gain. So I'll keep a tight watch on that. I got a ton of bullish setups here. Yeah, I did look at Carvana earlier. I know you were talking about it yesterday. Remember, I talked about the depth of the retracement when it was right at 50. I remember that talk, and I said that, look, it had to hold right there. It didn't, but that's put spread idea. Riven here, it's a bottoming pattern. I hope it just chops around for a while. GMed shows earnings 221, so it's not that, but wow, that's an ugly gap all the way here to the 200. We'll see if it can stabilize. Credit Suisse, I thought it was up in the morning, but no, that's gapping down. No interest. TDGT, that was earnings. That is one nasty earnings gap. Wow. ICU bottoming pattern was popping this morning. Now it's coming in. Let us settle down. I saw popping yesterday after the bell. Little buy setup from a bottoming pattern. Actually, though, that's not a big target. I'll delete that. Wet C here. Look at the volume on that igniting bar yesterday. But it's percentage wise, it's already up huge. We can find better. APP, there's another one, bottoming pattern, buy setup, pullback, but gap's too big. I'd be selling into that if I had it. Avro, what the heck happened with this yesterday? Now, just hypothetical, let's say it closed around here, 115. Then that would be a beautiful 1, 2, 3. But we don't buy 1, 2, 3s where the bar is 100% up move. Sono. So you got opposing shocks here. This would have been a bull sandwich breakdown, but earnings, it's kind of like a double sandwich now. But wow, that's a big gap. Too big for me. Yeah, Don, it would have to prove itself that demand is just building a higher level to give me any confidence in that, not retracing. 2252, the old frog man. Big gap, fluid move down. We'll see if that can stabilize. Hood here had earnings, another buy setup after breaking out, gapping over yesterday's high. That looks like a beautiful put spread if there's any juice, because with these earnings things, they're gonna be volatility contraction. So I have no idea what we would get for the 1050 for tomorrow, but that's what I would be looking at. My alarm XRT just went off. Buy setup. So this is a long watch. Retail. Yeah, these are all earnings. Let me just start at the top and get through as many as I can. There's a bunch of them. AB, can't tell where you're gapping, but yesterday's high is a long. It's a 1, 2, 3. ACLS, gapping and pulling in, but look at the moving averages. You can tell how they're getting farther apart. If you would take the candlesticks off, that's what those moving averages are telling you. It's getting extended. This I like AEIS. I can't tell where it's gapping. over yesterday's high. I'm gonna set an alarm at 97.75. $97.75, done. Agilent is range bound and it's opening flat. So that's a call spread idea. Yeah, McGraw and I are both in Fizz put spread. So McGraw, I'm bidding a dime to close mine. App, another buy. We already looked at that, so too much. With this we looked at gap and down. A sign, sloppy as can be buy setup. We can find better. AVB is a buy. Well, this was the one that actually was a 1, 2, 3 yesterday morning, and then it just kept going. So that looks higher, but I don't see any prints. This thing's a rocket ship. I'd be selling pre-market right now myself. Something's gapping up from 26 to 30. I would be selling and saying thank you very much. This was a beautiful buy setup. Remember I said 2 bottoming tails made the turn with a big old tail at the 20. It's gapping up though, but I'll watch that on a pullback. I think I was trying to sell puts on that yesterday and I did not get filled. This, I don't like the way you trade. Disney is, you know, what's getting the Dow all happy today. Wow, Microsoft also. So Disney up 6.5. So that's actually a call spread. That's a monster gap for Disney, particularly after it ran from 85. That is a call spread watch. I'm gonna put that in a window. Oh, the other one, Microsoft. So Microsoft's been in the spotlight here. You know, the media is pumping this idea of AI now. So it seems like that concept's going to be a new toy. Stocks. Look at AI. Been on a tear here. You know, we did a nice little call spread on that the other day. I'm watching this for a bounce and some type of reversal bar to do it again. EQH. This was another one I was hoping was a 1, 2, 3, but it kept going. And BBV. Yeah, this was one I was trying to sell a put spread, and I think they were too spready, but things that are beaten down, slowing momentum. So that's a definite put spread idea, Rich, if you want to keep an eye on it for us. This is where I need help. I just tell you things that I'm thinking. And the gapping up, still range bound, no interest. FLT is a buy setup. I'm going to set an alarm at 211.50. And market breaking out here after pre-market sideways. So I have a bullish bias today. Just gonna wait 30 minutes and see how it holds the gap or retraces or lack thereof. The old factory work. And form, I don't see a gap. FR. It's a buy setup and an uptrend. I don't see a gap. We got to come back to these. That was a breakout. Oh, there's no prints. Hood we talked about. HPP. Another buy setup. Deep retracement. I see one print up here at 1108. So that's not bad. Came in hard. So you obviously do not expect a new high. But if we even get a gap fill, well, I take that back. If it's opening at 1108, my target puts 1120. So that's not a good risk to reward. 106. Ugly gap down. This is a call spread candidate. LNC gapping down, no pattern. Mattel gapping down 18. Wow, that's a monster gap for this stock. You know, I don't even look at the prices. You look at where it's gapping relative. I got a ton of alarms going off here. That I mean, just relative to a normal bar, that is a monster kick in the head. AD line 1800, that's very bullish. Here, workday alarm. This is a 1, 2, 3. So maybe 10, 15-minute high. This looks great. DuPont is moving. I'm going to put workday here in this bottom right. Looks great. Gapping over that inside bar. Let's just see if it can hold it. Let me check this Affirm. Yep, we got an open gain Affirm. Midpoint right now, let me see how spready they are. The midpoint is 9 cents, and we sold them for 16. FLT up alarm. So yeah, I gave stop 5-minute low for this. Meta, Greg, low alarm. Well, my alarms are early, but that's a call spread candidate.
And I think you have to go out to next week for the premiums. I saw it yesterday, which could be fine. It'd be good for day trade shorts too.
All right, so we have a little breakout failure on the Qs with wide range. So this is exactly why we chill at the open. All right, so Affirm, we're in good shape. Hood here, you see he's coming in hard. So I don't like that. Surprise, surprise, marijuana week again. Disney coming in, I mentioned, yeah, Don, I just closed some of mine. I was shocked. I tried 9 cents and he wouldn't let me. So I covered some at 10 because I had it in multiple accounts. But it looks fine. Okay, good. You know what? Then let's close it at 7 just to be done with it. Although it looks fine. Just yeah, I'm gonna close it just to be done with it. So now we're 14 for 14 of the trades I've given the room. I actually took a small loss on something McGraw and I were in yesterday. I forget the symbol. My computer's lagging here. No, I only consider condors on range bound. And that's Google's weak again here, and that's not a good pattern. I would only do the call side. I just have very specific patterns for condors.